Hello, welcome back to BetterThanASynopsis. My name is Kieran, and have you heard of the game Fusionfall? Fusionfall was a MMORPG that ran in the early 2000s to 2013 that had the player fighting a war against a giant green slimy planet, while you had the Cartoon Network crew helping you out throughout the whole entire journey, because why not? The gist of the story is that Dexter decides, you know what, I'm going to try to test this time-traveling device out on the player, and we're just going to see what happens. And so Dexter sends the player accidentally into the future, and things have gone horribly wrong. The heroes are on their last straw. They're about to lose the fuse, and the player just shows up. And so Dexter reinvents time travel, sends the player back in time. Turns out, oh, the fusion invasion has started already. And so it's up to the player to defeat Fuse and help every single character in this world with their missions to stop all of these fusions. And it's a very silly game from the early 2000s. Of course, it's going to be something ridiculous like this. I am going to sit here and talk about every single character that has been added to this game. I originally thought it was going to be like 50 characters, something like manageable. Turns out Fusionfall has added 105 characters into its game, each of them with very unique lore, some of them not so unique, others have been lazily done, added to just promote whatever's coming up in the next market of Cartoon Network time, and others have been added with genuinely really good stories. And so I want to talk about them. Who were the good characters and who were the man-made horrors? Let's talk real quick about what this tier list entails. This is not a tier list on character design. This is a tier list that is made specifically about the characters themselves and what I personally find really fun in these characters versus something like these characters are not good designs. So understand that this is a very opinionated character list, and I have done my research in the lore to the best of my ability. This is a dead game after all. It has its ways to play the game, but as of right now, the best way for me to have done my research is to watch a Let's Play of Fusionfall Retro all the way through, all 103 parts, made by Przzyfied on YouTube. I would absolutely recommend checking it out. And basically going through the fandom wiki to understand what the hell these characters were when the game was originally released and what has been made from the fans. Another thing I want to bring up is the tiers that I have here. I have 6 different tiers that I'm going to be working with. On the bottom of our tier list, I've got my man-made horrors. These are the characters that were made for this game that are genuinely horrifying, and it's very much a weird thing as to why the hell they were added into this game. There are some characters here that character designs are so horrifying that there's no other way to explain it except it's a man-made horror. Other characters, they're really good character designs, but they haven't had anything really good to say about them, so they are haphazardly placed into this game. The other tier right above it is going to be a boring storyline. A boring storyline is going to be those characters that were really good, they're really cool, but you play through the game and it's nothing. It's a nothing burger of a character. It's just sort of, oh, they're here. Cool. Now we're getting into the more positive energy here. We've got something's here. Something's here is basically, ooh, I can taste something nice in this character. I'm having fun with this character, but something is up with it, or it's just not cooking as much. Unlike something like, oh, they are cooking. Basically what that means is these characters are really good, but they're not the greatest in the world. They are absolutely making this game feel alive. They deserve to be considered good. And then finally, we've got the GOATs, or the greatest of all time. This tier is saved for those characters that I believe to be some of the best characters that they have added into this game, and the characters that are basically the original character, but better and or added to the lore of this original game. Without further ado, let's begin. Dexter in particular is one of those characters that is very fundamental to this game, and he is basically this game's favorite child. Whenever something important happens, it's because of Dexter. And Dexter is in so much of the game that there is no other place to put him than one of the goats. They basically reinvented Dexter for this game. Obviously, Dexter was boy genius, now aged up, and with the fact that he has grown up, he has gotten so much smarter that he is basically a world leader at this point. That doesn't mean that he doesn't have his beef though. He beefs with so many characters. It's really funny. Eddy in particular was one of the characters that is added to the game because she is a part of Dexter's lore, and she does have something really good. When the war on Fuse happens, Dexter goes, oh man, I need to make sure that all of my family is safe, and so he moves his family away from the family home. Eddy, however, stays and is basically in charge of the whole entire home, including Dexter's old laboratory. Eddy is the protector of the laboratory, unbeknownst to her. So what she will do is she will have stories and missions where the player is like, hey, there's a war going on. And Eddy's like, oh, there's a war? I don't need to worry about that. Hey, by the way, these monsters, they keep on like disturbing my garden. You need to go take care of that right now. They were cooking with Eddy. It is so fun because not only that, they also stay original to the character. Of course Eddy's gonna want to stay in the home. The only issue is I don't think that she's one of the greatest. Because of the fact that she's in the early game, they don't really strive to make her something different. A lot of the late game characters, they have a very interesting lore that diverges from their original show. Eddy, because she's a part of like the really early on, she doesn't get that. Another character I'm going to bring up Mandark. Absolutely one of the goats. Although he is Dexter's rival, he doesn't have the same amount of lore as Dexter because it's Dexter. But Mandark does get is he gets a very diverse sort of character. Mandark is given so much freedom to become a different character. And yet, he's always tied to Dexter, but he's also a villain. So, Mandark beefs with every single villain, including Mojo Jojo, Vilgax, and for some strange reason, Courage the Cowardly Dog. He still stays true to his original characterization, so Mandark is considered one of the goats. Who the hell is Computress? It's a Dexter character. Computress is the computer, just given in anime form. And so the characterization of Computress is basically a nothing burger. There's nothing really there. And Computress is just basically another arm of Dexter's, just it's her. So what I'm gonna do is I'm going to put her in Something's Here. Computress is just another mission giver for whoever likes Dexter. And that's fine. Sometimes there's characters that are just going to be something. And fleshing out the world using NPCs is a-okay. Computress is one of those NPCs that fleshes out the world. Finally, the last character that was added from Dexter's laboratory is going to be Major Glory. And Major Glory is a haphazard choice. In the original game, Major Glory is hinted to have existed in the world by the Dexter guide missions, and all of his missions are talking about heroes that are going missing. But it's later proven that no, they're not going missing, they're just existing in the world, except for one character, Major Glory. Except when the game updates. You see, Fusionfall had this whole entire redo where basically they were like, you know this future storyline that we did? We're going to remove it. Basically, we're going to do a redo for the intro. And in that intro, Major Glory is a part of it. He doesn't even have any lines. Other than just existing in that one character point, there's nothing here. Alright, going forward, we have the Toonami characters. Basically what Toonami was a sort of bridge for Cartoon Network between cartoon and anime and all of like the adult sort of medias. Toonami became a very influential part of Cartoon Network history because, of course, Cartoon Network and Adult Swim are interconnected in such a fundamental way that you had to have at least some representation for it. It's very, very niche, don't get me wrong, but Toonami deserved to be included in this game. Tom from Toonami is not that good of a character in this game. Tom was basically added as a reference. Tom is given like an event where you can go find his little other robots scattered around Fusionfall, but there's nothing there. Tom was added so that way they can get the representation of Toonami without actually doing anything to flesh it out. And that's a haphazard character. Let's talk about Johnny Bravo real quick. Johnny Bravo was added to the game after the game first released, very early on. The thing is, the game had already been in development and they had a Johnny Bravo beach, but Johnny Bravo was never added until later on, sometime after Cheese was added. Johnny Bravo originally didn't really have that much lore until future developments. Basically what happens is Johnny Bravo doesn't exactly care or understand that there is a war going on, but what he does understand is women exist. Johnny Bravo was originally added as fan service, but he's been given lore over time, and his big thing is that he flirts with some of the other Fusionfall characters. I think that Johnny Bravo there's definitely something here. I would say that it's a weird inclusion to make Johnny Bravo in a warlike game and say that he is a hero, but who cares? It's Johnny Bravo. There's definitely some fun that is had by having Johnny Bravo in this game. And you know what, actually? Let's talk about Carl. Carl was added during a Fusionfall Retro update. Basically, Carl never existed in original Fusionfall. However, the fans, making their own version of Fusionfall, decided, yeah, let's try and add something new to the game since we have the time. And so they added all of these different characters. In one of the updates, as a joke, Carl was added in with one single mission where he is waiting in front of a comic book store and gives you a talking doll that when you open is no longer valuable to anybody. Originally worth millions, now worth nothing. Carl is absolutely one of the GOATs. Carl's inclusion is such a fun little idea that's exactly what the game should be. It should just be fun little ideas that are added into this game. And what Carl does is he fleshes out the world and he makes it more interesting. So the Powerpuff Girls all have their own little things that go on. And so first things first, let's talk about the first Powerpuff Girl that you meet, Blossom. Blossom in particular is a part of the early storyline. Blossom doesn't really get the time to be fleshed out. Blossom is given the task of introducing us to the world of Fusionfall. And to be fair, that's great. They needed someone to introduce it, and Blossom is a very good character for that. However, besides introducing us to the world of Fusionfall, there's nothing really there for Blossom except for everything else that the Powerpuff Girls have. The second Powerpuff Girl that we meet is Bubbles. Bubbles in particular was asked to stay close to the mayor and split up from her other sister, especially after the tragedy that happened to the Powerpuff Girl sisters. What happened with the Powerpuff Girls is basically during a fight with Mojo Jojo, Bubbles, Blossom, and Buttercup are trying to defeat them, and Mojo Jojo gets the upper hand and somehow blasts Buttercup with a laser, smacks Buttercup into the ocean, disappearing forever. The two Powerpuff Girls, as well as Professor Utonium, are still in grief for it, but because they are heroes, they are needing to do tasks and help the world. I believe Bubbles is actually also a good character, and I think they're cooking with something. The fact that they had Bubbles on the side of the mayor, as well as have Bubbles give missions out to the players to help out the surrounding nature in this technologically advanced civilization, is really interesting to me. Although, with that being said, besides that, there's not really anything there. I would argue that Blossom and Bubbles just aren't given as good of a characterization, especially compared to Buttercup, or should I say Belladonna, both of which are GOATs. So the lore with Buttercup is that after she was flung into the nothingness, somehow Buttercup survives the fall and lands on the shores without any memory of who she was when she was a Powerpuff, remembering nothing. The person that finds her is, unfortunately, Ace. Ace says, "Oh, you know what? You're not Buttercup, but you are Belladonna. You are going to be a part of my band." That's where Buttercup has been the whole entire, disguised as Belladonna. I would argue that that is the best storyline that is in Fusionfall. It is one of the mysteries that is explored in the later levels, and the players are basically given this like, oh my gosh, whatever happened to Buttercup? If it wasn't for the fact that you'd see Buttercup in the future, but we're not going to talk about that. She's given this like mystery around her that is really, really compelling, especially to early players for the game. So Buttercup is also absolutely considered one of the GOATs, a fan favorite for the community. Ace, on the other hand, as well as the Gangrene Gang, and this is very, very personal, I hate you, Ace, so much, but they are cooking with him. They were accomplishing a very masterful task, and the thing is, they don't make Ace likable at all. We all understand Ace to be so mean and problematic, especially for what he did to Buttercup. I do not consider Ace to be one of the best characters out there, but I will say Ace is for sure someone that they were cooking with. Another character that is added is actually all of Ace's buddies. Although they're not really given too many lines, they're given character models. They are used to flesh out the world, and it makes it feel full. The original game just had Ace and Buttercup existing right next to each other, but in Fusionfall Retro, they gave every single Gangrene member a character model. So I'm going to put them in somethings here because they're not fleshed out, but the fact that they exist in the first place and flesh out the rest of the Buttercup mission, it's so good. The next character I want to talk about is actually going to be Professor Utonium. Professor Utonium is placed right next to Dee Dee at Dexter's old home, and it's really, really fun having him there. Professor Utonium, I would actually argue, mourns the death of Buttercup more so than any other character in the world. And so what Professor Utonium is given is a lot of depth as well as a lot of character. However, because he's a part of the early game, there's not really anything else to it until you get to that later game. He's just sort of given the I am an intelligent man type of character and nothing really else. So I'm actually going to put Professor Utonium in They Were Cooking. The idea that Professor Utonium mourns the death of one of his own daughters, and one of the lore things is that he beefs with Father because Father believes that Professor Utonium's love for his child is what is going to lead them to lose the war. With that being said, let's talk about another character that has been influenced by the death of Buttercup. Princess. And Princess is one of the GOATs. Oh my god. Princess is given the lore bit that now that the Powerpuff Girls are no longer like a trio, but a duo, she's like, there's a power vacuum. I should be one of the Powerpuffs, especially now that Buttercup is dead. And it is the funniest thing to have Princess be a character in this game, and it makes so much sense. She's a teammate to Mojo Jojo, one of the guides, and yet she beefs with so many like characters. There's a plot where Grim, the Grim Reaper from Billy and Mandy, is being intimidated business-wise by this little freaking girl because her daddy's going to buy out his company and use this space for God knows what. Not only that, but Princess is also included in a very good update that happened to Fusionfall after Adventuretime came out, where the Ice King comes to Fusionfall and decides, oh, you know what? I need to kidnap the princesses of this world. And so who he decides to kidnap, one of them is Princess. Princess Morbucks is very much one of the GOATs of this game. Not an important character, but a character used in order to flesh out this world. Is used exactly as she should be, as a side character that complements an already great storyline. And other storylines as well. Alright, let's talk about one of the most important characters to the world as well. Mojo Jojo is very much one of the GOATs as well. Mojo Jojo is actually one of the guide givers, and his whole entire story is that he is going to create an army in order to take over the world after Fuse is defeated. And although he hates Fuse, he's gotten his ass whooped by Fuse. He knows that there's going to be war, and there's going to be the opportunity to take over the world. And so Mojo Jojo has the player secretly try to set up all of these like plots and all that, only to be thwarted by every single other character. And the fact that Mojo Jojo is so depressed, especially after his plot is dismantled by Mandy from Billy and Mandy, it's so perfect. Mojo Jojo is one of the most perfect characters for this game. Another character that's added to flesh out the world is going to be Mayor. The Mayor from Powerpuff Girls is a really, really fun character to add because this world is in utter chaos. Things have been torn apart. There's so many things that have been done to the world because of fusion, and yet because there's so many heroes out there dealing with the problems and acting as like the saviors for this world, the mayor doesn't really need to do anything. The mayor just sort of exists as a political head for this world. That is exactly what this world needs. So they were cooking with Mayor. Absolutely, wholeheartedly, 100%. They were cooking. Another character that's added is actually him. In lore, he is basically the devil incarnate. He is a bad guy for the Powerpuff Girls. He should be a villain, right? But he's not really given the chance to show it. In the game, him is shown to be a bad guy, and everyone is very suspicious of him. And it turns out that him had tried to make a deal with Fuse, only for Fuse to be like, no, I don't need you as a part of my mission. In fact, I'm going to terrorize you as well. I want world domination, and that includes you. And so him sits the missions out and is basically only given missions to better himself. There's not really a power grab done by him. And because of that, I'm actually saying that it's going to be very controversial. Him is a boring storyline. I wouldn't say he's like a boring character, because genuinely having him in Endsville right next to Billy is really interesting. I can't sit there and say that him is a bad character. That is one of my favorite Powerpuff characters, and you cannot argue against me that it is not a good character. Him is perfect. So I cannot go lower than a boring storyline, but that is what him has. Fuzzy Lumpkins, on the other hand, Fuzzy exists in the world, and yet he secluded himself from Townsville, and it doesn't really terrorize Townsville, but he doesn't want to interact with people. He's a hermit. And so when the kids next door find out that there's like a pink monster roaming about, they all think that it's another fusion monster. So they send a player to get pictures of it, only for it to be, oh, it's just Fuzzy. It's just Fuzzy Lumpkins. Fuse also doesn't know about Fuzzy Lumpkins, and so when he sees Fuzzy, he thinks, oh, that's an imaginary friend from Foster's. And Fuse beefs with imaginary friends from Foster's, by the way. And so Fuzzy is given a characterization and mission line that has the player take pictures of Fuzzy in order to convince Fuse that this is an imaginary friend. So that way, Fuse's research on imaginary friends gets so messed up because of Fuzzy and Fuzzy alone. And that's they are cooking with that. Last but certainly not least, from Powerpuff Girls, we've got the Blowfish. So the Blowfish was added in one of the late into development sort of stories for the Secret Saturdays. The Blowfish was given a storyline where he shows up for like I don't even know exactly how long, and exists in the world and then disappears. But it doesn't end there, because the Secret Saturdays find out that the Blowfish had laid an egg in order to make another Blowfish. The Blowfish is given a really good lore, but the way that he looks and the way that is implemented is not the best in the world. And it's just a side piece for honestly a rather boring mission line. So I'm going to add the Blowfish into a boring storyline as well. Haven't really gotten any man-made horrors yet, which is a little horrifying. All right. Let's talk Courage the Cowardly Dog. Courage the Cowardly Dog, from nowhere, somehow continues to foil alien invasions from Fuse, because Courage the Cowardly Dog has so much stuff happen to him that his house becomes like a center of some sort for like a lot of stuff. And so Courage the Cowardly Dog is given so much lore that is really interesting that his character model is so bad. It's a little horrifying, to say the least. So I'm in a little bit of a predicament because Courage the Cowardly Dog absolutely belongs in man-made horrors, but Courage the character is so perfect. So I'm going to put him in They Are Cooking because this is my tier list. It's mine. I can decide what goes in and what doesn't. Besides Courage, there was no other character added to Fusionfall from Courage the Cowardly Dog, except for the magic tree. Oh my god, the magic tree is horrifying. It doesn't matter that the magic tree has some like really good lore. Oh my god, look at him. That is a horrifying character. And I love the inclusion, but that is a man-made horror. Someone had to sit there and put that mouth onto the model and decided, yeah, this is a good thing to add for this game. Thank you, Fusionfall devs. Let's talk Time Squad. Larry 3000 originally was in the game just as like an Easter egg in the future, because what you do is you basically use the time traveling energy from Larry in order to send yourself back to the past, Samurai Jack style. And originally he was just a character that existed, or that used to exist. He wasn't really given any lore. And so that character would be haphazard or man-made horror. Except that's not where his character ended. In Fusionfall Retro, Larry was given even more lore in an update, because in lore, Coop from Mega's XLR decides, oh man, I found Larry 3000 in the junkyard. And so he rebuilds Larry, and Larry is like a lame robot compared to Mega. And so they beef so much. And it's so funny and it's so sad that Time Squad wasn't given the chance it was needed for Fusionfall. And instead, all we got was Larry and Coop. I'm going to put Larry in one of the GOATs. The love that the Fusionfall Retro team has and the love that the fan base has for these characters cannot be understated. There was so much love put into this game, and Larry is a pinnacle example of that. I'm being a little bit too positive, but I don't really mind. I say that, and yet I'm now going to talk about the Ed, and Eddy series. What happened to the members of Ed, and Eddy is they were like, there's an invasion happening. And I would say that Double D was probably like, there's an invasion, we have to make defenses. And so what they do is they take all of this cardboard, all of these boxes and planks and all of this, and creates a fortress around the cul-de-sac. And because of the fact that imaginary friends exist and imagination powers exist, it is one of the most powerful fortresses in lore. Ed, the builder of this fortress, is given a decent amount of lore for some strange reason. He did most of the construction for the cul-de-sac. However, he was chased out by one May Clanker. An interesting little side note is that in the future, Ed is canonically dead. Unfortunately, besides the fact that he built this fortress, Ed is a boring storyline. There's not really anything going on besides him getting chased out of the cul-de-sac and ending up as the king of the jungle. I can't put him in haphazard, nor can I put him in man-made horrors. He's just a character that existed. He's kind of a boring storyline. Ed, on the other hand, Ed is given one of the best characterizations because in the original game, he's actually placed to the left, if I'm not mistaken, of Eddy, and he's one of the guides for the game. He's a very important character, and yet he is always second fiddle to literally everything. And his whole entire mission, he finds candy, like a massive amount of candy that turns out to be toxic. His whole entire stick is trying to figure out what the hell to do with this candy. It's probably one of the silliest stories in the game. So with Double D, they were cooking. They were cooking. Now Eddy, king of the cul-de-sac, he supplies the war for some reason. He is the good supplier. And not only that, a character sits in the middle, and that is Eddy. He's a really good character in lore, but if you take a look at his model, it is the worst thing. Obviously, with the game's updates, it's gotten better, but there's something that you cannot understate about the original horror that was OG Eddy. And so with that, as good as Retro did it, it's a man-made horror. Eddy is a abomination of what he was. Let's go to May Clanker. May Clanker they were cooking with. May Clanker has the crush on Ed, and May follows Ed into the mountains, right? She gets lost on the way there and is right next to the Toilinator in Camp Lazlo. It's strange lore. Welcome to Fusionfall. May Clanker somehow gets her hands on what's called the Book of Prophecies, an all-powerful magic book, has millions upon millions of spells in it. And so what May decides is, this is my chance to win over Big Ed. And so May concocts a love potion that fails. And it grabs the attention of all the other characters, and every other character is like, May, you need to let go of the Book of Prophecy. And May's like, no, I'm not gonna let go of the Book of Prophecy. And everyone's like, okay, what if we convince Ed to go on a date with you? And Ed is like, no, I'm not going to do that. And everyone is like, how about this? May, we will give you one of Ed's jawbreakers. And immediately May is like, oh, deal. It is one of the funniest storylines out there in the game. So they were cooking with May Clanker. However, the same cannot be said about the other two Clanker sisters. May be cool, but Mary and Lee Clanker are probably one of the more boring characters that were added into the game, and were just used to sort of flesh out the world and weren't really given the proper characterization that they were needed to in order to have a very interesting story. At the very least, Mary and Lee were in development of a massive hamburger they were going to use as a Trojan horse into the cul-de-sac. But besides that, there's nothing really there for the sisters as much as May. So they are both getting put into haphazard. Samurai Jack, I believe, was actually added into the game in order to get people excited to play the game. And so Cartoon Network knew exactly what they were doing by putting him in the last area. And boy, howdy, is he important. He is also one of the first time travelers because he was sent into the future, right? And so what he's trying to do is he's trying to find his way back. Maybe that's why Dexter was trying to form time travel in the first place. Maybe he was trying to help Samurai Jack out, but we'll never know for certain. But either way, Samurai Jack is also one of the first characters to encounter a fusion spawn in the Darkland. He's one of the only characters that is physically there for the final battle with Fuse, is always in the front lines. He is right there impersonal, and he has so many good plot points in this game, especially with his enemy Damongo. Samurai Jack is getting placed as one of the goats. Damongo, the Soul Collector, he is a demon that works for the main villain of Samurai Jack, Aku. He is basically Aku's right-hand man. And so Fusion Damongo is given the task of being Fuse's right-hand man. Everyone accuses Damongo of being this villain. Damongo was the one that took the souls of these missing heroes, but turns out, no, it was Fusion Damongo. Samurai Jack is given so many plots with Damongo in these last missions because they are one of the last two characters that can interact with each other. And Damongo has so much suspicion for Samurai Jack, and Samurai Jack has the same for Damongo, but both of them have desire to defeat Fuse that they have to officially work together, even though Damongo is definitely bringing Aku back into the world and is very shady and is for sure a villain that's only working with the heroes to gain his power back. Damongo is also one of the goats, and it leads to one of the best storylines in the game, with the hint of Aku coming back, because although the war on Fuse might be over, the war on villainy never dies. Whew, that was big. Let's talk about the Scotsman. He was placed right next to Grandpa Max and Number One, because Grandpa Max and Number One, they're some of the best fighters in the game and also some of the best tacticians. And so Scotsman is given basically this role of being a part of the war council that is made up of Number One and Max. But besides that, there's nothing going on with them. So I'm putting Scotsman also in a boring storyline. All right, let's go to Juniper Lee. Juniper Lee, the Tejuanze, the protector chosen, who's given the task to maintain the balance between the spirit world as well as the mortal world. However, Juniper Lee is given the ability by Grimm to leave Orchid Bay in exchange for Grimm staying there, is basically able to try to explore this supernatural sort of enemy, and maybe there's a way to fight Fuse using the magical abilities that she has. And so where else should she be but nowhere? She goes out there to nowhere with Courage the Cowardly Dog because supernatural stuff is happening with Courage, and Juniper Lee is there. I love this character so much. I didn't really know anything about Juniper Lee until I started playing Fusionfall, and I didn't really know anything else about her until I started doing research into this video. She's amazing. The pilot episode's out on YouTube, and I would recommend going to watch it. It's a really good pilot that, although it's aged with time, it's still a really, really good show. But I would say that Juniper Lee is unfortunately one of the characters that was haphazardly added into this game just to be given one of the more boring plots. And I feel bad about that because genuinely she is a really good character and she has some pretty good lore. And you know what? She does deserve something better. There's something here going on. I wish they added more to her. I wish there was more lore and maybe something having to do with her original series, but goddamn, that's a good character. We talked about the Grimm adventures quite a bit because lore connects. Let's start talking about the series itself. Billy, the dim-witted human from Ennsville, is definitely one of the best characters in this game. He's given exactly the type of plot that he deserves for this game, which is I am just going to piss around and be funny. And yet he's also one of the most important because Billy, the human from Ennsville, somehow is able to adopt a fusion spawn. And everyone is like, whoa, how did he do that? And it's like, well, you can explain it by it just being Billy. Billy does these things. However, when investigated, it turns out that Billy didn't actually adopt a fusion spawn. Billy created an imaginary friend that was a fusion spawn. Billy is probably one of the more powerful beings on this on this list. Goat, S tier. That's one of the best. That is an amazing character. Mandy is also one of the S tier characters because Mandy is also pretty damn evil in this game, but she's given the ability to be like, oh, damn, respect. Basically with Mojo Jojo, Mandy is able to thwart Mojo Jojo's plans to make a super army after the war. And Mandy goes, wait a minute, Mojo Jojo was planning on brainwashing all these monkeys. I can do that. I can reverse it. And instead, I am going to hypnotize every single player character that is running around this game in this MMO. So I'm going to do that. And is given like one of the best missions at the very end of Mojo Jojo's guide missions where Mandy is like, I am going to take over. And Dexter's like, whoa, 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 hold your horses. No. And Mandy is like, oh man, you stopped me. Respect. And Grimm is also a really, really good character, but there's not really anything else to him. Basically, the lore for Grimm was that he was able to escape the deal made with Billy and Mandy during the chaos of the original invasion and has been a businessman, basically. He somehow convinced the Sejuanze to leave Orchid Bay, and that's where he resides, and has set up his own sort of business. Other than the fact that he is suspected of being evil, there's not really anything there. Grimm isn't really given very massive storyline that's very interesting. He's just sort of boring, and that's probably going to be a little controversial. But my list. Haas Delgado. Originally, I had him really low, and then I watched the Ben 10 guide missions. It's really, really good. Haas Delgado is a really good character, especially in those last missions. And surprisingly enough, with Haas Delgado being a part of those missions, every single Grim Adventures of Billy and Mandy character that I just put in a tier list has like a moment in a guide mission. It's so good and satisfying to see Billy and Mandy get that representation in this game. Haas Delgado, originally I had him in a boring character and a boring storyline, but there's something there with him. He's so cool in there, and yet also sort of ridiculous, which is exactly how he should be in this world. Let's talk about Dracula. Dracula appears during the holidays in the original Fusionfall game. In Fusionfall Retro, Dracula is given like a little bit of missions. However, I would still argue that as he's no longer really like haphazard, Dracula is just sort of boring. and I feel bad for that because Fusionfall Retro tried their best. I don't understand the appeal of the character, and I think this is a personal problem more so than a problem of the character. Fred Fredburger is also a part of this game, and he exists in the holidays as well as the Academy updates. He just sort of exists, does Fred Fredburger stuff. He doesn't really do anything else except just existing in the world. Number 1 is the Supreme Commander of Codename Kids Next Door in Sector V. However, because of the fact that he, as well as the rest of the K&D, are basically like operatives for a Kids Next Door government, of course they're going to have very important lore implications for the game. The Codename Kids Next Door are basically put as like the government officials in this game, and it's really, really cool. But unfortunately, with all of the Codename Kids Next Door, there's not really much going on. Number 1 is put with both Max and Scotsman in order to safeguard the Fisher, and there's not really anything that they do with Number 1 as much as some of the other operatives. So I think Number 1 to me is a boring storyline. Number 2 is a technology official of K&D, and he's probably developed a lot of the items that you get in the game. The issue is he's also like the first mission giver, and so he's not really given the chance to be fleshed out. But at the very least, he's still given all of the dialogue to be an interesting character. So I'm going to put Number 2 in Something's Here. Number 2 is a really good character. Number 3, the stealth specialist. Number 3 was actually sent with Number 4 to set up the jungle outpost. Besides being sent out there, there's not really anything that's done with them besides they exist in the outpost. So unfortunately, it's not because they were bad inclusions, they just were basically haphazardly placed in there. Both Number 3 and Number 4. The thing is, with Number 4 was that he was really eager to join the war with Number 1 as like an operative in the front lines. Because of the fact that he cares so much for Number 3, he was not able to go out there because he wanted to protect Number 3. And that's very sweet, but I wish there was more to explore that dynamic. There wasn't really anything else put out there for Number 4. See, with how everything is, you would expect me to put Number 5 in also haphazard, because Number 5 isn't really given anything. But there's something about that character design. There's something so wonderfully simplistic yet perfect for Number 5 that no matter what, I cannot put Number 5 low on this tier list. They were cooking. When a character design is so good that you have to put that character and they are cooking, oh, it's good. Let's talk about villains. Father is also a character that was placed into this game, and he is the arch nemesis of the Codename Kids Next Door. You don't really get to see the children that Father has, but you get to see him be shady and slimy, because he also doesn't like Fuse, but he also refuses to be a worker with the Codename Kids Next Door and all of these other characters, which are arguably probably teenagers as well. He doesn't want to interact with them. He thinks that they're all slimy and they're going to disturb his business. He is probably the most villainous character in here that we've talked about so far, and so I'm going to put him in They Are Cookin', because he's not really given any time to like be fleshed out mostly, but he is given enough. The thing is with Father is that he doesn't want to talk to the Codename Kids Next Door, but he is needed to be a part of like the mission talks. He's supposed to be there. And so who can act as the connecting point between them? Why? The Toilinator. The Toilinator is basically used as a middle point between Father and the Codename Kids Next Door. And the thing is, Toilinator is actually supposed to be Father's secret agent in the Codename Kids Next Door, so that way he can understand what they're doing. However, Toilinator is not respected by Father, and he's not respected by any other character in here. My only wish is that they did something as vengeance for poor Toilinator, but he is literally named Toilinator. I'm gonna put Toilinator in Something's Here because they didn't need to add him, but they did. and they didn't need to flesh him out, but they did. I would argue that a character this bad should be in like a boring storyline or anything like that, but there's so many things going on and giving him a push that I will at least succeed and give him something here. Another villain of the KND is actually going to be Sticky Beard, the Candy Pirate. And Sticky Beard in particular isn't really given anything with the Codename Kids Next Door. He's given more missions with Ed, and Eddy. And because of that alone, I think that they were cooking. His area is honestly pretty damn boring, but they were cooking with him. He gets all vengeanced out against Ed, and Eddy, and Wilt, the imaginary friend who was there with Ed and Eddy, has to be like the mitigator, or else there's like a massive war between the Candy Pirates and the cul-de-sac. And it's just, why? Coop is the pilot to Magus, the massive alien robot. Thing is with Magus is that Magus was actually the first thing that was targeted by Fuse in order to eliminate the threat of Magus against Fuse, because the aliens that Magus comes from, they actually had fought and won against Fuse before, and so Magus is an infected zone in the game with Coop right outside. So Magus is definitely one of the goats, a tragic tale of being a target of war because you are the threat. However, Coop is also a really good character, but he's not really like fleshed out as well as Magus because he's basically a complementary part to Magus. I will give Coop, they are cooking. The fact is, he also had that friendship with Larry 3000 that was so perfect. And you can't have Magus without Coop. At the very least, they can exist next to each other, just divided by tiers. All right. Let's talk about some of the worst inclusions in the game. So back like right before the game was closed, they were trying to make sure to get every like show that was gaining popularity and add them into the game. They added like regular show as a like nano that you can unlock with codes, and they added Amazing World of Gumball in the same exact way, and they were given Adventuretime this whole big mission. And yet they also decided, you know who else we need to add? We need to add Johnny Test. And the thing is with Johnny Test is that he is my least favorite character in this whole entire list. It's not even about the fact that Johnny Test, the show, is probably one of the worst shows that I've ever watched. It's the fact that Johnny Test looks this bad. Johnny Test should not have been added to Fusionfall, and I would make that argument, not without proper care and attention to make him work in the world. Instead, he was given a single nano mission where he lost his skateboard and an item shop. The item shop itself is Dookie, and Dookie looks awful. Oh my god, what did they do to you? Man-made horrors. I'm going to have nightmares. Thank you. Flapjack in particular is actually given like a decent amount of lore because Flapjack has been rewritten like 3 times in this game. Originally, he was supposed to be separated from Knuckles and Bubby, and they are just supposed to try and find them. They're not really given anything else. In later updates, it is said that Flapjack's home of Stormalong is completely destroyed. And so now Flapjack is just trying to exist as a traumatized victim of war. And it's so sad. He's just trying to find Bubby. Let him be. There was definitely something there. It took a while, but there was definitely something there. Candy Wife. Candy Wife was in this game, and Candy Wife was kidnapped by the Ice King. And there's nothing really else. There's not really anything else besides being a part of like a holiday event. I wish the best for you, Candy Wife. You should have been better. Instead, you're just a horrifying monster. Let's talk about Foster's Home for Imaginary Friends now. With Foster's Home for Imaginary Friends, you have to introduce the idea that Foster's Home of Imaginary Friends is created by child energy used to create these friends out of nothing. And so Fuse sees this power of creating something out of nothing and is horrified, because not only that, but he is also weak to the powers of the imaginary friends. The imaginary friends are also extremely powerful beings for Fuse. And so with that being said, let's talk about all of them. Blue in particular, the mischievous, always trickster character, is no different in this game, and Blue tricks the player into taking on all of these monsters for his own benefit. Blue doesn't care for this war, but unlike Eddy, who's advocating that he does not care for this war, Blue is a distraction for the player, and I love that for Blue so much. I love the fact that he's found near Dizzy World, and he's even blamed for the malfunction, and I also love that somehow in the future, Blue is given the recognition as the imaginary friend, even though he hasn't done anything. I'm putting Blue in they were cooking. They knew exactly what they were doing. Mac, on the other hand, Mac is supposed to be the responsible kid and best friend to Blue. He has to help out so much in this war, even though he is so young. And the thing is with Mac is that besides the fact that he is basically sort of just a part of the council taking care of this war because of his connections to the imaginary home, he shouldn't be a part of this war to begin with. And it's so funny that they've added this character in. The thing is, though, is that he is not exactly the most important character. And if we take a look at his promo art, it's a little weird to have this little 10-year-old be this anime, I guess. I can't say that Mac is a cool character, but I can't say that he's a bad one, so he's just given a boring storyline. Wilt isn't found at Foster's, Wilt is found at the cul-de-sac, and he's given like a decent amount of missions. He's supposed to be like the voice of reason to Eddy as well as Double D. Wilt has always been the voice of reason, but I don't think this was the original plan. In the original ideas for Fusionfall, it was actually said that Eduardo was supposed to be at the cul-de-sac, and I believe that to be perfect because it would have been Eddy, Double D, and Eduardo, still including the Ed, and Eddies, except Eduardo's there. But instead, because of some different plans, they decided to add Wilt into the cul-de-sac. And I like Wilt in this game. I think his character model is really cool, and I think he's so fun, but I don't think he's given the chance to shine, so I think he's boring. I'm sorry, all those Wilt fans. Eduardo, on the other hand, Eduardo is given so many opportunities to shine. Although he's the scaredy cat of the Foster's home, because of how intimidating he is, and because of the fact that he's made of imagination energy, Fuse is horrified of him, as well as all the other fusion monsters. And so Eduardo is given the task of defending the Foster's home. It's really, really good storytelling. Of course, he has to defend his home. He's scared out of his mind, but he has to protect the things that he loves. And so I'm actually putting Eduardo as one of the goats. Coco is also a horrifying creature for Fuse. Because of the fact that Coco's able to produce those eggs, is actually a really important character. Basically, Coco has been laying these eggs to boost the players the whole entire time. And yet, because of that energy, Coco is target number one. So Coco runs away, and Coco's trying to escape the clutches of Fuse for the whole entire game. And every single mission with Coco is Fuse is after you. You need to take care of it. They were very much cooking with Coco. If it wasn't for the character model, especially in this original photo, I would put Coco higher, but they were cooking alright. Frankie, house manager of Foster's, for some strange reason oversees an expansion to Foster's because of Mandark for some strange reason. So this is another character that beefs with Mandark, and it's really, really fun, but there's not really anything else that's explored with Frankie. Besides just beefing with Mandark, there's nothing really there. Frankie doesn't really take a part of the war because she's just doing her best for the home, and that's just about it. Unfortunately, Frankie's not as boring as what they did to poor Mr. Harriman. Mr. Harriman is one of my favorite characters in Foster's. It's unfortunate that all that Mr. Harriman's really given is the nano mission for Cheese. He doesn't even have his own nano. I would personally say that is a travesty. Even though he is a haphazardly added character, I am going to put him in Man-Made Horrors myself, because look at what they did to my man. Finally, my favorite character in this whole entire game, we've got Cheese. Cheese is the quite annoying imaginary friend that in Fusionfall lore loses them a very important battle because he kept on clicking buttons, and Dexter's helicarrier is basically given the chaos that Cheese is supposed to have. I am going to put Cheese all the way on top of the goats. Cheese is absolutely one of the goats, and not only that, he's also given so much like exploration, as well as like so many implications for what the hell this world does. One of the missions for Cheese is that Cheese eats fusion matter and then poops out monster versions of himself. Not only that, he's also left in like the highest level area. And so you think like with the last bits of Fusionfall, a lot of the missions are going to be like, you gotta like make sure to take care of the last bits. It's like very dramatic missions. And then Cheese is just here. It's like, Cheese needs chocolate milk. Wait, no, you can't give Cheese chocolate milk. Cheese is lactose intolerant. And it's so perfect. All right, let's talk about Ben 10. Ben 10 is one of the guides in this game. His missions involve stopping Fuse from getting alien tech that's scattered about the world. The thing is, like, the Omnitrix has been on the fritz the whole entire time for the Fusion invasion. In Retro, it doesn't help that there's an update where Dexter messes with the Omnitrix and accidentally releases a ton of the aliens in the Omnitrix from Ben. The implication that I get from Ben is that he is also one of the most important characters into this game. However, I personally think that Ben 10 wasn't handled the best in Fusionfall. Every single update and every single other game tries to flesh him out to be their version of Ben 10, but it's just, there's something up with it. I would argue that Ben 10 is only something's here. They were cooking for sure with all these other implications, but Ben 10's alien tech is so integral to this world, and yet it doesn't feel as important as the Codename Kids Next Door or Dexter. It just feels like an add-on, and it sucks, because Ben is so cool. Gwen was also added in this game. Her character model is so good. I think her character is really, really good, but it's so boring. Gwen's storyline with the totems is not something that's very interesting, to me personally. I can't put Gwen higher than a boring storyline, because I think that Gwen was actually just lazily placed in the world. I don't think they put a lot of thought into where to place Gwen. Not as much as they did for Kevin 11. Kevin is also a part of this game. He was out exploring when his car broke down in nowhere. Kevin is given the opportunity to basically be a part of the crew in nowhere with courage and explores these random storylines. And the thing is, Kevin is also one of the most aggressive characters. Kevin is given this story where he tries his best to come up with a solution and even like ingest some of the fusion matter into his system to see if he can get like a hold of it, only for him himself to get brainwashed. Kevin is given one of like the most damaging storylines against the war on Fuse, because Kevin accidentally gives him the ability to make Fusion Kevin 11, who's one of the most dangerous fusions out there. Kevin is definitely, they were cooking with it. Max in particular was put in a really important area, and the thing is, Max is a part of the Ben 10 missions. He's actually probably the one that gives the most guide missions for Ben. Other than him being a part of the guide missions, there's not really anything going on. Max isn't really given a character outside of, I have to protect my grandson. And yeah, that's a part of his original character, but they could have done more. They could have explored a dynamic between Max and Number One, or they could have given Max an I'm suspicious of X character. Although, in my personal opinion, I don't think those storylines are as interesting as just exploring how the world is implied with each other. So I'm putting Max in a boring storyline. Let's talk more Ben 10. Vilgax is the world-conquering alien and arch-enemy of Ben's, and Vilgax is actually put aside in order to defeat Fuse. However, Vilgax is still evil, and so there's a whole entire plot point where Vilgax and the rest of the villains are given a arc of messing with each other. Vilgax is like, alright, I'm going to send a meteor into the planet, only for it to be thwarted by Courage the Cowardly Dog. Like, there's so many like good stories with Vilgax in this game. I would actually argue he is probably one of the better characters from Ben 10. They were cooking, especially with the add-ons that they added to the original game. The thing is with Ben 10 is it's got some pretty good villains and some pretty bad stinkers. I don't think Hex is a very good character. I think he was just haphazardly placed in here. I think it's just so that way there's more characters in the Totem plotline, but it's just sort of boring. I feel bad because there's definitely some Hex fans out there that definitely love Hex, but sorry all those Hex fans out there. Tetrax is one of like the last characters that you meet in the game, and although it's fun, they didn't really do anything to flesh him out, and so he's also a really boring storyline. I am sorry all of the Ben 10 fans, there's nothing I can do. They didn't do Ben 10 justice. After like a couple updates, they actually decided, oh, you know what? Let's try and do a Ben 10 update like we did for all these other characters because Ben 10's very, very popular. So they brought in Paradox. But the thing is with Paradox is that he's not really given a character. He's just a warp for the area. And he's got some missions and he continues to plot with stuff. There's not really anything there. He just exists. The same can be also said about Azimuth. Azimuth is so tiny. Look, I can't see that on the tier list. There's nothing there. He's the creator of the Omnitrix, right? If Ben has been struggling with all of these problems with the Omnitrix, you think that Azimuth would be able to fix it, but no. I think that it's just because of my bias, but I don't think Azimuth was really well handled in this game. Nor was Alan. Alan was just added during a holiday event, and that's about it. The same can be also said about Alien X. The thing is with Alien X and Alan is that they were actually really good character models that weren't given the chance to shine. Albedo originally was added as the same as Alan and the same as Alien X, but in Fusionfall Retro, Albedo was given more characterization. And I do think that they made Albedo a little bit too much of a joke in this game because everyone knows that it's Albedo, not Ben. But that doesn't take away from the fact that they genuinely did flesh Albedo out. And it's so good. With Albedo, they were cooking. In that same update in Fusionfall Retro, they actually also added a couple of aliens from Ben 10 that were originally in his Omnitrix that escaped from it and were given their own characterizations. The thing is with them is that they were given the same characterizations as Ben, and so some of the characters are just carbon copies of Ben in interesting ways. Amphibian is placed right next to Ben, and unfortunately, because he shares the same characterizations as Ben, there's only just something there. It's cool, it's so interesting, and that character model is really, really good, but there's not really anything there to flesh it out. The Echo Echoes, there's actually multiple Echo Echoes running around the world. The Echo Echoes were also a part of the Birthday Bash, now given a character model and fleshed out lore in Fusionfall Retro. The Echo Echoes are given the opportunity to be these really, really interesting characters, and instead they're turned into the same as like the Candy Pirates and all of them, where they are parts of Ben that give out missions, even though they're just sort of there type of characters. So I would actually say that the Echo Echoes, there's something here. Megawatt in particular, he's not really a character. They're actually more so chaotic entities and monsters, because you actually defeat a couple of, I believe, fusion megawatts or even just regular megawatts, because they find their way to nowhere, and Kevin's like, maybe I can use some of them to charge up the car again, only for it to fail. And so I think the megawatts are sort of, they're a boring storyline to me personally. So, by any chance, does anyone remember Ship? Ship was also added into Fusionfall. No, but let's actually talk about it. Ship was added during the Ben 10 update and is given both like a little tiny version as well as the big massive ship. I don't exactly know when both versions were in, but it was definitely after the Academy update, and they're fun, but they're not really characters that are explored. So I would argue that they are just given a haphazard appearance in this world, and or just given the opportunity to give Ben 10 a relatively new space. Finally, the last Ben 10 character I've got is Spider Monkey. Spider Monkey was given a storyline in Fusionfall Retro where he is taken to Monkey Mountain and does monkey things and becomes basically like a part of the monkey faction in the Monkey Mountains. And so I would say that Spider Monkey is cool, but there's not really anything else there except the fact that he exists in the world. This is gonna be a nightmare to edit. Let's talk Chowder. Chowder was given a character model after the Academy update, and he was located in the cul-de-sac and has the players get ingredients from Mung. There's also a whole area in his mouth. There's also, in Retro, a Christmas-themed mission. They were cooking with Chowder. Other than Chowder, though, I would not say that all the other Chowder characters are given the same sort of respect that Chowder was given. For example, Snitzel. Snitzel gives out the mission in Chowder's mouth to flush out Fusion Chowder and find Kimchi, but he's not really given that much characterization. I would say that there's actually just a boring storyline in Snitzel. Another character that's also pretty damn bad is Kimchi. Kimchi is an object and a MacGuffin for you to find in Chowder's mouth. He's not really given anything else except for that. So I'm going to put Kimchi in haphazard, as they were just added as an extra mission in Chowder's mouth. Another thing that was very much added haphazardly was Wisdom Tooth. Wisdom Tooth just acts as an item shop for the Chowder items. You can see a trend with these after the game released updates where the ones after the Academy that were in the original game were sort of not the best in the world. Sour Ron, as well as Huckleberry Lord. There's given some really cool things, but they're also really scary to me, and I would say that they're not the best characters to add, but they are better, I should mention, than Arbor and Arbora, who were added in other events in Fusionfall after the Academy update. Look at those faces. You're telling me those aren't man-made horrors? Do you guys remember Secret Saturdays? Basically, the plot of Secret Saturdays is that there's a family of cryptid investigators who are trying to take down Vivi Argos. I don't remember. I can't find them on streaming at all, so I wasn't able to do that much research on them. So let's go with how they are in Fusionfall instead. Zack Saturday, the main character of the Secret Saturdays, is the secret scientist and child of the Saturdays. And he's in Fusionfall. He's pretty alright. His character model is really good. It's refreshing to see the series, but it's really boring. Zack Saturday's missions just have him investigate thingies around, because by this point, Fusionfall had already fleshed out its world to where adding the Secret Saturdays doesn't change anything. It's just an addition to it. And they don't do anything besides exist. At the very least, Zack is not a horrible design. Let's talk about Doc Saturday, the patriarch of the Saturdays. Doc doesn't show up anywhere else except for Birthday Bash. So the thing is, the art for Doc is pretty darn good, but there's nothing else there, so I'm going to add him into haphazard. Unlike Drew Saturday was actually added and given the plot point with the Blowfish. Do you remember the Blowfish from earlier? Blowfish was also added just so that way we could investigate and talk about the Saturdays. So I would actually say that Drew is a really good storyline, if not just a little bit boring. Fiskerton isn't really given anything else besides the idea of I am existing in this world. And so Fiskerton is unfortunately a man-made horror for this game. The same can also be said about Zon, but at the very least Zon is actually a plot device. So haphazard, I guess. Chupacabra was added during the Birthday Bash, as well as Vivi Argos. His character design is really, really cool, but they did nothing with him, so I have to put him in haphazard. Continuing forward, and we're nearing the end of our tier list, we've got Adventuretime. The thing is with Adventuretime is that when the show was first coming out, it was season 1 and like season 2 that they had to work with, and Adventuretime popped off. So obviously they needed to add him into the world. There's some really good things and some really weird things. So let's start off with Finn. the Ice King escapes the world of Ooh, and Finn, Jake, and Princess Bubblegum basically are all trying to track down the Ice King and stop whatever dastardly plan that he has. And so Finn goes there and does all of the Adventure Time missions with us, the player. After the Adventure Time missions, with the success of it, they decided we have to keep Finn in the game. And so I would actually argue that the Academy update was added so that way they can keep Adventure Time in the lore as a prevalent space without it being invasive of the original game. And so with Finn, there was something there that they were exploring. The thing is, Finn's not the only character that they added, and boy howdy do we have a lot to talk about. Jake is not a character in the game. Jake is a jump pad used in order to hop to one space to another for the player. Jake doesn't have anything else to do in the game. The character model itself is horrifying. I'm going to have nightmares about Jake Fusionfall for eons. Lady Rainicorn was actually added during the Academy update as a portal to the Fusionfall world, to Sector V. In the original game, Lady Rainicorn was completely static and there wasn't anything interesting to make of her. Original Lady Rainicorn is a man-made horror, but at the very least Retro came in and fixed her up so I can put her safely in haphazard. Unlike Princess Bubblegum. Princess Bubblegum is a horrifying character and is definitely the worst inclusion. Even worse than Johnny Test. Oh my god, what did they do to you, Queen? So, in the original game, Ice King is given the plot with the princesses and is the catalyst for why they all came to the Fusionfall world. And I love that for him. But the best part of Ice King is actually the holiday update in Retro, where they just popped off. There's so much good work that the Fusionfall Retro team did for the Ice King. Ice King is absolutely one of the GOATs. And not only that, Gunther is also one of the GOATs because they did so much work. Originally in Fusionfall, Gunther didn't have his own model. It was just blue, but with a little beak. And like, that's fine. It's lazy, but it's like, that's cool. You at least did something. You added a new character. But then Fusionfall Retro, years later, was like, okay, we see your Gunther, and let's raise you this boy, and let's give you an official art. It's so cute. Gunther in Fusionfall is adorable. I can't argue against not putting him as one of the GOATs. With the Adventure Time update after the Academy, they added a decent amount of other stuff to it, including the mysterious dungeon, where the Reaper teleports you into. I don't have Stanley, the watermelon here, but I'm going to put both of them in haphazard. Just picture like a watermelon right next to the Reaper, okay guys? Because both of them act as a teleporter and an item shop for the Adventure Time stuff, and there's not really anything done interesting with it besides the fun mechanic of the dungeon. So they are haphazardly added. Especially because Reaper isn't really an important character to Adventure Time lore, and nor is Stanley. A character I do believe that Fusionfall did pretty darn good was actually the Secret Snail, who is both an Easter egg in Fusionfall as well as it used to be an Easter egg in OG Adventure Time before Season 2's implications with the Lich. In Fusionfall, it's an Easter egg that gets you unlockable items, and there's secret groves located throughout the world, or at least it used to be. I think the Secret Snail is a really, really fun character to add. Now we're getting to the shows that I very much remember the least about. So, Sym-Bionic Titan is basically about these aliens escaping their dying planet to go to Earth and stay in disguise. So we've got Octus, Lance, and Lana. The thing is with these three characters is they were all added during the celebration and were brought into the world, but there's not really anything there with them. They are, all three of them, boring characters in this world that don't do anything new to further the plot. And so with them, I'm going to put them all in haphazard. And finally, let's talk about Generator X. Generator X was a really, really fun show. And when they brought him into Fusionfall, I thought it was really, really good. And genuinely, I think it was very interesting. The thing is with them is that there's not really anything there for them to do. Agent 6 in particular, a secret agent for Providence, tasks the player with finding where Generator Rex is in the world. Agent 6 in particular only exists so that way you can have that connecting point for Generator Rex. So Agent 6 is a boring story. Bobo Haha is actually a decent storyline, but not that much better. Bobo Haha is just sort of added in as the assistant to Generator Rex. So I'm going to put Bobo in haphazard. My hot take is I actually believe that they were cooking with Generator Rex. The fact that Generator Rex was added to the Academy and is genuinely given the Providence as an area and is basically only used to train the new player, that's good. That's a really interesting and fun dynamic to have with Generator Rex. He is supposed to be the student that is supposed to be getting taught, but with the influx of new heroes, he needs to train this new crew of people. The last character that I have on this tier list is Ice Bear from We Bare Bears, an Easter egg that was added into Fusionfall sometime because the fans really wanted him. And I love this Easter egg so much. With that being said, that is the end of my tier list. I appreciate you all for watching. Thank you so much for spending time with me talking about this game that has been a real love for me in recent years. It used to be my favorite game of all time that now I'm reliving because I can. Thank you so much for spending time listening to my rambles about a game that I should not know this much about. Make sure to subscribe for more content like this, and let me know if you guys liked it. If you guys didn't, that's okay, and let me know what I can do. I appreciate the viewership. Have a good one.